Okay, and I think we're ready to go. My name is Kelly Sheen. I'm the district manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District and a member of the Trinity County Collaborative Group facilitation team. I'm going to go ahead and call a roll. I think I've been coming in here, so I'm going to try as best as I can to call out names and who you all represent, just to facilitate the quickness of getting through the roll call. So if I could just get an I or here or something to that effect for the record, that would be great. I'm going to start as we have attendees here. So Barry is coming back in again. So James Lee, representing the Trinity County Fish and Game Commission.
Great.
Okay, well, I know that he's on the call here. I did mute him earlier. Let's see, Roger Yeagle.
I'm here.
Okay. Larry Glass.
I'm here, and a little trick for you Zoom aficionados. All you have to do is press the space bar while you're on mute, and you unmute yourself while you're holding it down. Then when you let it up, you're back on mute.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent tip. Let's see. Susan and Ross Mullen.
Here.
Here.
Oh, wrong one.
Just 1 second. Okay. Jennifer Mata, Bureau of Land Management.
Good morning.
Morning, Jennifer. Kristen Lark, Six Rivers National Forest.
Morning, everyone.
I think I saw Laura Graham, Chesapeake National Forest.
Morning.
Hi, Laura. And did I see, I'm double checking. No, I'm not seeing, okay. Jerry Cousins.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Morning, Jerry. Arnold Whitridge.
Here.
Morning, Arnold. I saw Diane Richards. Are you on, Diane? I see that you are. You're on mute.
Here.
Here.
Thank
Is,
you.
Is Forenza with you?
She will be in a few minutes. She's finishing something.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you.
Let's see, where am I at? Carrie Otto.
Hey, good morning. Yes, I am.
Is Rachel with you?
No, she's in another engagement right now. Sorry.
Well, welcome, Carrie. Thank you. Mark Goldsmith from Shasta Trinity National Forest.
Morning.
Morning, Mark. Larry Winter.
I'm here. Good morning.
High Palm, I guess High Palm Fire Safety Council.
Correct.
Good morning, Larry. Lois Schumacher, Shasta Trinity National Forest. I see Lois there, but I'm not hearing. So.
Good morning.
There you are. Good morning, Lois. Tara Jones from Shasta Trinity National Forest.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? I'm having to use my phone for the audio.
I was wondering about that number. Yes, Tara, we do hear you. Thank you and welcome. Good to have you here. Susan and Joseph Bauer.
Here.
Greetings.
Morning to you both. Carol Fall. Trinity Center.
Good morning. I'm here.
Great. Christine Jordan with U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Good morning.
Morning, Christine. Chris Losi, Shasta Trinity National Forest, South Fork Management Unit. I see Chris there, but I'm not hearing. Kenneth.
Hello?
Paul. Oh,
Can you
there
hear me
are.
now?
Yes.
Okay, the space bar did not work.
I think you have to, if you hold it down, it basically, it like toggles. So like if you hold the space bar down and talk and then let it go, then it toggles you on and off.
Yeah, I tried that, but I'll just, it didn't seem to work, so I'm here.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Baldwin.
Here.
There you are. Hi, Kenneth.
Hi.
I believe that must be Diana and Terry Sheen.
Yes, it is. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And did I miss anybody?
Paul Hooser's on.
Paul Hooser. Hi, Paul.
How's it going?
Good. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I think that's everybody. Okay.
I see Robin Chin on, she's also Shasta Trinity National Forest.
Oh, Robin Shin. Okay.
She's a planner.
Okay, my oversight. Welcome, Robin.
And I didn't hear you mention Bob Morris. Is he on?
I don't see Bob, and I left a message. That's why I'm in the conference room. I left a message for him that if he wanted to come in, he could come in and be here in person. But I'm not seeing him on, and I hadn't seen his name come up yet. And I have somebody else coming on. Todd's iPad. Okay. I didn't see Bob. Sorry, Joseph. Maybe he'll be arriving shortly. Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward. Did people have an opportunity to review the collective memory from the meeting from May 21st? Any comments?
Very impressed with the length and detail, once again.
Good. Yeah, I got somebody that does pretty extensive transcribing of those meetings, so we capture everything we can. So thank you for that comment. If there aren't any comments on the collective memory, we'll accept them as is and move forward. I assume everybody got the agenda that I sent out last week. Is there any additions or time-sensitive items that we need to include today? I know that I sent out a message just a couple of minutes ago from Chris Losi, forwarded it out to the group with a map, and he had mentioned that he would have an update for Oxfire Complex recovery.
Heads up under
You?
the Kelly.
Yes, I see. Yes, Carol? I'm sorry, what was that? You were kind of cutting in and out. And you seem to be frozen. Carol, can you hear me? Sorry, Carol, you seem to be kind of a little bit blocky and the audio is cutting in out. Do you want to turn off your video and see if that helps? Robin's audio is not working. It says, I'm looking at the chat, there was a few things. Under the U.S. Forest Service updates, can we get an update on Minersville boat ramp? That was from Carol Fall. Okay. Very good, we can include that.
So Kelly, this is Joseph. In
Yes.
light of the discussions we had at the last meeting around fuels reduction, I wonder if we could, along with the report on the August fire update, if we could hear from both forests what they intend to do regarding the fuels cleanup, what changes they're going to make from past practices to something that will be adequate and timely in cleaning up these new projects. So if they could include that in their report on the August fire update.
Okay, very good. I have to assume that everybody heard that and can do that for us.
Hey, Kelly, this is Jerry. I was wondering what happened to the talk about the owls.
Okay, so and maybe I can go ahead and we did have a discussion about that with Christine Jordan, and there was some coordination efforts that needed to be done between U.S. Fish and Wildlife and probably SPI. Christine, would you like to speak to that?
I can, thank you. I figured there would be a question on that. And we do have a larger barred owl working group across the range, and we're finalizing some information regarding management strategies. And so we'll have that better prepared for the September collaborative meeting. And then we were coordinating with Keith Greenwood and Ed Murphy from Sierra Pacific Industries. The bulk of the barred owl presentation that we'll have will be the service, just providing some information on the species and its interactions and influences on spotted owl populations, but then SPI was going to speak a little bit to what they've been doing on their grounds. So we just want to have that be clear, concise, and provide you with the best information that we can. Hence, we're moving it to September.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, that was noted on the agenda, but thanks for the explanation, Christine. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see. There aren't any other specific or time-sensitive items for the agenda. We will move on to public input, if there is any. I think we've got a couple of call-ins, which have people now called in for audio.
Hello, I think you're talking to me. This is Peter Dobo.
Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hi, I'm going to go outside so the signal's better. Couldn't deal with Zoom and Apple weren't seeing eye to eye, but here I am.
Are you calling in there from an agency or public?
Post Mountain Public Utility District Board of Directors.
Thank you for joining us, Peter. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Has anybody else called in that I am not recognizing their numbers?
Kelly, I'm calling in on my phone. The audio's not working at the fire station.
Understood. Okay, good. Thank you, Carol. Those were the two that I just saw come in. Okay, so let's go ahead and, if we don't have any specific public comment, we'll move straight into forestry issues and August complex fire updates. Chris Losey, would you like to start off on that?
Actually, I'd like to defer with the to the phase one project if Tara doesn't mind.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can go.
Oh, okay, very good. Tara Jones, are you prepared to give us a little report out on that?
Yeah, I can tell you where we are with August phase one. The draft EA has gone out. We've received comments back, and the team is reviewing all the comments that we have now and just settling in so that we can evaluate them and analyze the comments and take a look at how those fit in. So that's where we are with that. We're analyzing the comments we received and evaluating those. We are still working to make some progress on the bridge. No promises, but we may have a way to get that bridge problem solved. And the county was helpful in helping move that along. So I want to thank the county for that. And so that's kind of what's going on there. We're still, and then once we get the NEPA signed and we look at implementing some vegetation projects, we'll also be reaching out to the partners that we identified during the rapid assessment to do some of the restoration work. We'll be reaching out to them as well. So that's what I have on August phase one. I do have, I'm working on getting some information on the boat ramp. That I didn't see that one coming, so I apologize. I don't have information on that yet. But when would you like me to address in your collective memory the questions about some of the slash? At what point do you want to talk about that?
Why don't you go ahead and do that now, Tara?
Okay. So I wasn't at your meeting, but I did read through the notes, and I saw some of the concerns that were expressed about slash being on the ground for a long period of time, and the length of the contract and the slash staying on the ground until the contract was over. And there are some things that we can do there. Once a purchaser or a contractor has completely finished their responsibilities under the terms of the contract in a unit, we can then agree, the Forest Service and a purchaser can agree to delete that unit from the project, and that would then free it up for some of that follow-up work, whether it's CCI or in-house or burning or whatever. So that I wanted to kind of give you guys that information, and that's something we can certainly look at doing, and that would speed up the process of the follow-up fuels treatments from that way. So any questions on that? I know that was a hot topic with you guys, and I'm happy to answer questions about that.
Well, just I would request that in your final document, you detail how you're going to deal with the slash, not just when you'll get to it, but to what extent will the slash be cleaned up, how many feet back from the road and so on. That's the concern that we have. So, fuels reduction is just great, but, let's get the whole job done. Tell us what you're going to do with all the material and when you'll get it done.
Okay, well, I certainly appreciate that input and that feedback. And as I said, it was nice to read in the notes or what your concerns were. And I know we can look at Brown's phase 3 as we implement that. We can be, as we finish a unit, we can be deleting the unit and freeing that up for some of that follow-up work that the purchaser isn't required to do, but that we've identified either to do in-house or through a CCI grant or something like that. So yeah, I really appreciate that feedback, and we will be sure to identify what we're going to do about the slash. Obviously it's a big fire footprint, but in the areas that we treat, we definitely will have a slash plan and a way to make, address the issue and make the units more fire resilient and things like that. So I really appreciate the feedback, and I think there's definitely some things we can do to help meet some of those concerns on timber sales especially.
Susan, thank
So
you.
that's
I
all
think
I
that would
had
be
for
very
August
helpful.
phase. Yeah, no, that's, yeah, and I also, when we start to, I'd like to get a few units or at least a few landings completed on Brown's phase 3 once they start out. And then who would I contact to schedule a field trip with you folks? I know you're super invested in the Browns projects and in Brown's phase 3. So who is my contact to set up a field trip for that?
Terry, you can contact me, and then I can, it'd probably be best, I mean, obviously it has to do with your guys' availability largely, but, we could, if we needed to, we could do a doodle poll or just set a date, and then I can distribute out that information to the group.
Okay, great. And I'll definitely make sure that we have some stops to look at Flash and talk about that and give you guys a chance to voice your concerns and for us to listen. So thank you for that. Is there any other questions, or are there any other questions about August phase 1? Okay.
Not
All
here.
right, well, thank you all. Thank you all very much for your interest and your comments and input on this project. I really, really appreciate it.
Chris and Lark, do you have anything to add about August Complex?
Yeah, definitely. If you want to move on to me, not a problem. So we're in our scoping period, as you all should probably know, hopefully know, that started on June 25th and runs through July 26th. So your written comments are welcomed, hopefully to get those in on our scoping newsletter. I think you've all seen the scoping newsletter. I've had 2 public meetings. One was a Zoom meeting. I know some of you that are on this call were able to participate in that. That was on June 29th. And then on July 8th, I had a in-person public scoping meeting with the local community there. And so those went really well. I've also talked on the phone to a few of you, and I'd like to, respond to here in this group about the 2 questions that had come up. I'll start with the easy one, which is the noxious weeds that we're going to be treating as part of the proposed action under our restoration EA. And I want to explicitly state that we are not going to be using herbicides at all for that abatement of those noxious weeds. So I hear what you're saying about having that explicitly stated in the document. So we'll make sure that that's the case. And then in terms of the fuels treatment in the project, both for the activity fuels that will be created in the commercial units and the natural fuels that are existing in the non-commercial units. I heard the comment that you'd like to hear, more in-depth information about how we're going to do that. It'll be a little bit different. Heard Tara talk about the fuel treatment as part of the contract with that activity fuels. Of course, we'll have that in the contract. I was very intrigued to hear about the ability to release a unit by unit as opposed to like a whole payment unit, to be able to move other resources in there to work on that fuel reduction. So made a note of that, and that is definitely something that we would be interested in doing. So talking to our fuel specialist, who's still working through his methodology and his prescriptions, generally what we're looking at is that he's using this crown mass modeling, and we're looking at having the correct amount of residual tons per acre across the project, and then the arrangement of those residual fuels. So he will model based on using that crown mass modeling on tons per acre, and then calculate what the flame length and then intensity would be based on those tons per acre left, as well as their arrangement. So for the most part, you will see in those commercial units, most of the material, standing material that's commercial, will be removed, and then the submerged stuff will be treated, put on the ground. And it's that balance between soil productivity and protection and erosion protection, leaving enough material there to protect the soil, but not so much that we're outside of our desired future condition for that fuel loading. So as we work through that, we'll have some more specifics, but I definitely hear the comments about the different classes of fuel size, you know, getting those 1 and 10 hour fuels off the landscape, retaining more of those larger 1,000-hour fuels on the landscape to provide for some structure, some protection of the soils, you know, in our area-based salvage, where we're going to be doing reforestation. Some of those large fuels provide shade for seedlings, planted seedlings. So we'll pull silviculture into to have some input on what that would look like. Piling as well is one way that we're going to rearrange the fuels on the landscape for wildlife piles, both hand and potentially machine piles. Not sure that we've gotten all the PDFs yet from Timber Project Design Features. Sorry, jump into all that acronym stuff for what that prescription is going to look like. So definitely hearing the need to have more detail on that fuels treatment post logging, post hazard tree removal, and we'll get that to you. You'll see that in the draft EA. So hoping to have the draft EA out towards the end of August. We're having an IDT meeting, the next one with the specialists on the 27th, and they have some due dates for some draft specialist reports there. So I think I'll pause on that and see if there's any questions. Okay, not hearing any.
Kristen,
oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think maybe you should report on what you heard from the locals about wanting the fuels cleaned up next to their private property. That would be interesting to the collaborative, I think, and the future project probably.
Yeah. So thanks, Joseph. So to sort of summarize, the local public is supportive of the project. To sort of coalesce their comments, they'd like to see more done on a larger footprint and quicker. And, you know, really wouldn't we all, if we would if we could. But there were concerns expressed about where some of our treatments occurred on the landscape, and having an interest of having focused fuel removal on the Forest Service property immediately adjacent to their private properties where their homes had burned. So I had a lot of people in the meeting who had lost homes or lost, they didn't lose their home, they lost, you know, some of their standing trees in their timberland in this fire. And so they were concerned about that. For this project, you know, we're solidly in our proposed action and our footprint. We did early on, the Forest Service ID team did discuss how we would approach treating around the private property. And for this project, it wasn't feasible with the time frame that we were operating under to focus restoration on doing fuels reduction around private property. So there are some areas where there's a nexus between a road or some other feature that is adjacent to private property, where some of that work will happen. And we're also doing hazard tree as individuals come to us, you know, hazard tree reduction, allowing that along their properties. So that would be a project that would be next. You know, we are looking at some other sorts of authorities where we can do that work. But I think maybe what Joseph was getting at is that the sentiment was that our ridge top and roadside fuel breaks were not as functional as having a fuel break immediately adjacent to their private property. And I think that there's some room for interpretation there, and a room for some improved messaging from our fuel staff and our new Chief One, which is Josh Eichhammer, who's been on the force for a long time as a fuels planner, to help with that messaging. So I think so. Joseph, did I hit on what you were alluding to?
Yes, just fine, thanks.
Okay. So I don't want to take up too much more of our time here. You know, for this project to change the footprint we're too far down the road for that. So definitely something that we will be moving towards as we go forward. So, okay, I will stop there.
Great, thank you very much, Kristen.
Okay.
Is there any other questions for Kristen? Okay.
This is Roger Yeagle. I'm wondering if you have set a standard for the amount of fuel that will remain on these landscapes.
Generally, yes. So a standard is that 4-foot flame length. And so that 4-foot flame length is a metric that we use in order to have successful firefighting in those areas. So we want to look at that intensity as well as those flame lengths. And so that's, you know, a balancing act between saving enough woody debris to protect the soils, but not so much that we exceed that 4-foot flame length, and then looking at cost and time as well. And so all those sort of factor in. So I don't have like a number for you. It's going to be X tons per acre that we would leave that would meet that. And it will differ. So once that modeling is done by our fuel specialists, I'll have a better idea for what that number would be.
Any other questions for Kristen? Okay, not hearing any. Let's see, Chris, you want to talk about phase 2?
Thanks, Kelly. Most of everybody should have gotten a map. So in case you're having difficulty with the screen. So if you'd allow me to share a screen.
You bet. Or I can bring it up. I have it available.
Oh yeah, go ahead. That works. Just you bring it up would be great.
Okay. Does everybody see that? Is everybody seeing the map?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, great. So the August phase 2 project is designed to look more at the long-term fire resiliency of the area. In order to, you know, there's so much to do on this landscape, but you know, we have a lot of priorities, and so what I've been recommending all along is that we start small with something manageable. And so what we've got here is a 3,000 acre. You've seen maps like this before. I think 4 months ago you saw a map that was quite similar to this. This is the proposal. This is a proposal. This is a proposal for field management zones, prescribed fire, and some light site prep, which means going into old plantations and other areas with small trees and removing those trees so we can plant. I don't have a whole lot to add. You know, we've got a lot of material ready. We've got a lot of discussions. We've got a lot of work done on the project design. But really, I think what we need to do right now, especially because this project is being designed under the fire resiliency CE category, which allows us to have a lot of, which really allows us to do a lot of streamlining on the planning side, is what I'd like to do is schedule a meeting / field trip in the next few weeks so that we can have a field visit and look at the area and take a look at what's going on. So I'd like to do a field trip, and actually I'd like to suggest, if most are available, doing some internal polling that we have our field trip on July 30th at basically 9:30. That's what I was going to propose. A field trip 9:30 on July 30th. That's 2 Fridays from now. And we could meet at the Bramlett Road turnoff on the 36. There's good cell phone service there. And then progress down to this project area and look at some possible treatments. Also, I'd like to do a public meeting, a Zoom or a virtual meeting, and that can be long or short. The regs actually ask us to do some specific public involvement, and so we don't need to do, these things don't need to be long, but we do want your input. We do want to help ensure that this is collaboratively influenced, designed, etc. I think we got a pretty good design, but and we have been sharing this with you folks all along, but we do need to make sure that everyone's on board. And so really that's all I have to add. This is our tentative design. As you can see, it says draft. It involves fuel management zones. By the way, those fuel management zones are mostly 300 feet in diameter, although in some cases, due to topography and having a couple of units right next to each other, we've extended them slightly beyond. It is mostly within the fire footprint, although on the north and eastern edge, the fuel management zones extend outside of the fire perimeter because the August fire was contained on that road and ridge. And so that means that on the northern and eastern sides, there's areas that never burned. And so we've actually got a higher fuel loading over there than we would elsewhere that we really would like to treat. So 95% of this project is within the August fire footprint, but a little bit of it would extend out in order to allow for the creation of a fuel management zone on both sides of the road. And so really that's all I wanted to share. And mostly I'm hoping that we can have, that we can agree to a date for a field trip. I've got more to add on pilot. I won't talk about pilot right now. That's another topic, but I just wanted to end that way and see what comments there were, and if that date works for folks.
So what does the collaborative think about that date and time?
30th.
July 30th at 9:30 a.m. at Bramlett and 36.
Works for Larry Glass.
That's good for Post Mountain.
That is a level 2 meeting for the Shasta, Trinity, and Klamath National Forest, but my participation in streamlining and project planning for this project doesn't have to start on the 30th. I could get out there with the ID team or biologists on another time. So.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else good with that date?
Okay.
Kelly, please repeat that information.
So Chris Losey is proposing that we have a field trip on July 30th at 9:30 a.m. meeting at that time at the Bramlett Road off of Highway 36 to review August Complex Phase 2.
This is Jerry. That date works for me. Thanks, Chris.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Are there folks that would rather have possibly in addition I don't want to overwhelm people with meetings. On the other hand, I want to make sure folks have an opportunity. So we could have this and then a Zoom meeting if that would be helpful, or we could, play it by ear or that sort of thing. My initial thought is let's just have the field visit, and then if there's a need for a field for a Zoom meeting, do that, or perhaps we could schedule a whole TCC meeting before the project design is finalized. What do folks think about that?
Chris, would September, the other option could be that, like we have a field trip, have people take a look at it that are available, and then report progress at the September collaborative group meeting.
So that would be fine. By September, hopefully the design will be finalized, and we'll be working on the analysis. So if folks just want to have a conversation about that, that's fine. I think if we want to have a meeting to discuss the design for folks that can't go in the field, then we'd need to do it in late August at the latest.
Any thoughts from the group? Okay, well, maybe what we can do is go ahead and plan for the field trip. And then, if we needed to do basically a special, we could call a special meeting of the group in August. And for those that, are interested, they can attend or not.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay.
Me too. Diana Sheen.
All right, great. If there's no further questions or comments for Chris on August Fire Complex, August Complex Fire Recovery Phase 2, maybe since you have the stage there, Chris, maybe we could talk a little bit about pilot project.
Sure. So first off, I want to thank the collaborative for getting a letter from the Board of Supervisors so quickly. That came in on the last day of the comment period, and that was much appreciated. The comment period saw a handful of letters, under a dozen, I want to say about 6 or 8 letters. No real surprises. We did get a long letter, for relatively long, not very long, but a medium-sized note from Epic. I'll just say, they wanted us to impose a 18-inch diameter limit and avoid all riparian reserves. I'm really worried that if we do that on what is already a very narrow treatment, a 300-foot, this is one of those earlier designs where we stuck to 300 feet and no larger. So it concerns me that that when you only have a 300-foot wide buffer treatment area, if you're going to have a diameter limit and not treat within the riparian reserves, it just limits your ability to get good work done. And so, of course, we'll respond to those comments, but I think that was the only thing that rose to the top. There were some comments about climate change, I think mostly from the concept of, will this still work in the future? And I think, that's true. We're designing our projects to be resilient based on the best available science. And of course, climate change can change our landscape, and we know that, but I think we are being responsive. So on the whole, we got some good letters of support. Thank you very much. And we got a little bit of pushback that we are addressing now. I think the timeline is to respond to those comments. I've asked the team to respond as individually as possible to those comments, so we get a real really address those comments head on, and then I anticipate we'll be able to release to begin the objection process, which is really the last phase of planning. I anticipate we'll be able to begin the objection process in late August, early September, which then the objection filing period is 45 days, and then the objection resolution period is 45 days. So that gives us a total of 90 days. So that puts a signed decision in December, or I would say January at the latest. And then it's actually looking really good from the perspective of implementation. And it looks like now that we have a new TMO, West Side TMO, who is going to be working in part on this project. And I believe they're already doing some good layout in the pilot area. So my hope is that, we can get a sale out of this pretty soon and meet one of the three purposes of the pilot project, which is ecological sufficiency and economic sufficiency, and training. I think that's the three. I think there's a fourth one, but I know there's ecological and economic, and maybe social was the third. So I'm sorry for not being all caught up on that. But as you know, having a viable economic sale come out of the pilot project is one of the three or four, depending on how you count, pillars of this project. And I think we're looking good on that. Any questions on pilot?
Great. Not hearing any. Thank you very much, Chris, for the update. That's good news that it's moving forward. I had in the agenda that we built, I guess moving on, we had listed Joint Chiefs, final round of final year of round 2. Does the forest, either side, have anything to report out with regard to current projects or current use of funding for their Joint Chiefs funding for this final year of round 2?
Kelly, that's why I have Lara on, and she'll give you kind of an overview. I do have I got a message so here's my update on the boat ramp. The Forest Service has received a revised engineering conceptual design from the California Department of Boating and Waterways. We are currently working with our Forest Service engineering staff on the next step in the contracting process to get that design to an engineering firm to finalize. I said that kind of fast, so. Okay.
Okay, great. Carol, do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, Tara, just so you know, we have a lot of people up here wondering about that because the lake is so low, and right now the only access is Minersville. So what is the timeline then, do you know, on actually getting a design finalized?
I'll tell you what, so this is one of those areas that Sarah and I kind of, it's in Sarah's area, but we kind of share some of the responsibility and the reporting out part of it. So let me do some homework, and I will get back to Kelly with an email update. Would that be okay? And then see if he can forward that out to you on some anticipated time frames. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that would be appreciated because we canceled our recreation committee last week, so I apologize for bringing it up today, but because we're getting so many questions, I just wanted to be able to give people some idea of what was going on. So thanks. If you can give us an update, that would be really appreciated.
Absolutely.
I think that at the last recreation committee meeting, it sounded like Sarah was alluding to the fact that there may be a possibility of getting an extension, because obviously, a lot of people on this side are getting pretty nervous about losing that funding again. So when you talk with Sarah about it, that might be something worth inquiring about.
Yeah, so, okay, I'll see what I can do to find out, a time frame. I know it's really hard for us to give a real specific, and kind of iron it down due to, the fire activity, everything that goes on and competing priorities. But I'll do what I can to check on a time frame and I will follow up and make sure that we have the opportunity to not lose that funding and to extend that. That's really important, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Great, thank you, Tara.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. To kind of circle back around, was there any, so Laura Graham, would you like to talk a little bit about Joint Chiefs on the Shasta Trinity National Forest side?
Hi, good morning. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, again.
So we were able to get a couple of contracts awarded this year using the Joint Chief funds. The South Fork Management Unit put together a prescribed fire burn module. And so that will help us sort of augment our Forest Service regular staff with burning around the South Fork and actually on the Trinity River Management Unit as well, because we do have a lot of piles, especially in the tip firs areas. So anyway, that contract will help us get some of that burning done. And then the Trinity River Management Unit, we put together a contract for about 395 acres for the Weaver Rail Community Forest Phase 1 Fuels Project. And so we also used CCI funds and appropriations in addition to the Joint Chief funds. And so that one's located just west of town. It started a couple weeks ago. So that's the Glennison Gap in the West Weaver area. So that's just the small diameter thinning, piling, and pruning. So if anybody's driving towards the coast to get cool from this hot weather, you might be able to see some of that happening up there. And then also Joint Chiefs money went to the Indian Valley PCT project to treat about 579 acres. And that's just, thinning and piling and some lop and scat. And I think that's like that's a plantation project. That's something that the South Fork Management Unit put together. So in total, we received about about $460,000 of Joint Chiefs this last year. And we spent roughly 430 of that. Are there any questions?
That's great, not hearing any. Thank you, Laura, for that report. Anything on the Six Rivers side, Kristen?
Well, I'm not sure what our dollar amount is for this year, so you'll have to forgive me. Nancy Curran does a great job at managing the program. We generally, when we get our funding, it all goes into our agreements that we have with our partners. The RCD is one, and Hay Fork as well, to do that fuels reduction work that we typically do. So we're, have a good methodology there and pretty focused on our same sorts of work. One thing is it's not particularly a Joint Chiefs funding, but we are using KV to purchase a chipper, and that chipper will help augment the work that we do across the district, including the Joint Chiefs funded work as well. So that's about it in brief.
Great. Any questions for Kristen? Okay, not hearing any. Next up on the agenda here was the 2021 submittal. So the Joint Chiefs proposal that was sort of a collaborative effort between primarily myself and Lejean and Kristen, with some help on the Shasta Trinity side, as well as the NRCS. We did get our submittal in on time. I want to thank Kristen and Lejean for adding some very significant and I think appropriate additions to that work. I put a fair bit of time in on it myself, and then they came in and added some really, really good content to that. So we've got a good map together. So I'm pretty pleased with how that submittal, the proposal actually turned out. Kristen, did you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks. I appreciate that. It was definitely a group effort. And, you know, we talked with Jason Coe as well. And so getting that sort of real-time feedback, I think really helped us increase the detail that they were looking for. I don't want to steal your thunder there, but there was, as it moved ahead, they asked this year, I guess, for a preliminary ranking from the region before it went on up to the next level for approvals. So we placed in third, which is great. And Jason had mentioned that they typically have funded the top 3 projects. The Smith River NRA had their project in there, I believe was number 1 or number 2. I think it was number 1. So, a really strong showing by both the forests, and couldn't have done it without you, Kelly. You really pulled that together, and then we all got it across the finish line. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, well, again, thank you. Like I said, that input, I think, there towards the end looked, really put it over the top, I think. So that was super helpful and needed. So we've got our fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll be hearing back about that sometime within the next month, I gather. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. Before we move ahead, are there any more specific forestry issue related updates that we want to touch on, either from the forests or any of the, before we get into more general updates from the other partners later on in the meeting?
I'll take the opportunity to jump in here real quick. So I just wanted to let everybody know that Ted just let me know this morning that the 2021 Capitol Christmas tree is coming off the Mad River Ranger District. So I would like to invite all of you to make ornaments and or tree skirts for the Christmas tree. It would be pretty exciting to have, there's some criteria there, but I think we can have some logos or that represent our shared stewardship. And so, a big thrill for me, even though I was trying to get it to come off another district, but here we are in the forefront again. So go Mad River and go Trinity County Collaborative group. So just wanted to share that.
That's great. Like I know that those numbers were pretty, when they reported that out, they were talking about hundreds of trees, right? So, I mean, if an organization wanted to put something together, how many ornaments? What should we be shooting for?
Yeah, let me send you the specifications. So there is one large tree that will go in front of the US Capitol, but then we're sending companion trees as well. I believe there's between 85 and 100 companion trees of different sizes. Some are in that 10 to 12 foot and some are in that 15 to 20 foot. So some of those are going to come off my district. And I believe the number of ornaments is some outrageous number, like 10,000 or something. It's a huge number. So let me pull those specifications up and send it on to you, Kelly, and then, excuse me, then you can share that. So, so anyway, yeah, big thrill.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. If there aren't any other forestry related issues to discuss, I guess we'll move on to the line item in the agenda to discuss this year's fire season. And again, obviously this is sort of an agency driven discussion. Anybody on the, I guess, since Chris has been talking for a little bit, is there anybody on the Shasta Trinity National Forest side that would like to talk to this?
Yeah, hi, my name's Todd Mack. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Todd. Yes.
Can you see me okay?
I can see you.
Okay, so, hey, so nice to meet you and good morning to everyone here. So my name is Todd Mack and I am the new Fire Management Officer for the Shasta Trinity National Forest. So I just wanted to introduce myself real quick since I am a new player and a new invitee to this meeting and to this group. So thanks for having me. You know, just a quick background about myself. I've been on the Shasta Trinity for 22 years. Most of my career has been on the Shasta McLeod Management Unit. Most recently, before I took this job as the Forest Fire Management Officer, I was a District Fire Management Officer at the Shasta Lake District, which is also part of the Shasta Trinity, as all of you know, I'm sure. So, and here I am in my, you know, I've been detailed into this position for the forest for the last probably, I think it's like 7-8 weeks. And I just recently accepted the permanent job. And so I will be here for the foreseeable future. Yes, and so I was asked to give a overview of fire season. So I'll start with our springtime challenges leading up to the 2021 fire season. I think most of you are aware that the Forest Service and federal wildland fire community was faced with some challenges early in this season. There was a lot of discussion about fair and equal pay for federal firefighters, a lot of discussion about retention going on in our agency. And we as a forest, as a region, spent an awful lot of time working on getting accurate numbers for staffing after our rounds of seasonal hiring and permanent hiring. We pushed some of the concerns to the region, which pushed some of their concerns to the Washington office. And in my 26 years of being a federal employee, I was very pleased to see that some of the concerns coming from the wildland fire community had been presented in Washington. And that is a step that I didn't think I would see in my career. So very encouraged about some of the challenges facing federal firefighters, wildland firefighters, have been brought to the forefront. So encouraged about where that goes for us in the future. But we made it through that time of the season. We were able to successfully hire firefighters for our crews, helicopters, engines, prevention technicians, lookouts. So we do have our staffing. We are a little shorter than we've been in the past on the Shasta Trinity National Forest, but we continue to have success working through some of our hiring challenges. And so that ate up a lot of the time. This spring, working our way through the numbers, hiring. All the time we were preparing to compete and complete our fire suppression activities. So we got into May, late April, early May. We did have some lightning come through with light amount of rain. No heavy wetting rain was reported across the Shasta Trinity National Forest, but some rain. And so, you know, that has helped. I think you're all aware also, you know, we are in a prolonged drought. Our fuel moistures are drier than normal. And then we have a prolonged heat wave in June that pushed the temperatures in this region to break records. And so in the middle of that, going on, we have the lava fire take off. And I think you're all aware of the lava fire, which was on the slopes of Mount Shasta. We were able to respond appropriately. We worked with our cooperators, CAL FIRE on the Siskiyou unit to a successful end. That fire had a lot of challenges, and we were able to overcome that. That started on May 24th, and then on July 1st, the salt fire took off in the I-5 corridor along the Sacramento River drainage, Salt Creek area. That fire demonstrated fire behavior that we usually don't see until August, and it was July 1st and late August for that matter. Very successful in initial attack on that fire. All the resources that we needed and support equipment did make it to the fire, and we were successful at suppressing that before it got to a level that would last longer than it did. So, very pleased with our success there. In the middle of all that, the Blue Tangle fire took off over in Trinity County, which I'm sure you're all extremely aware of. Had a great initial attack response to that incident, and we were able to keep that at 10.3 acres. Couldn't be happier with the result of that incident. And then the Bradley fire started last Sunday, and that was in the McLeod Flats. Due to an awful lot of fuels treatments that have been completed in the McLeod Flats, that played a big hand in allowing us to get containment at 357 acres. And so once again, another success story. We are, I hate to say this, but we're in a little lull right now with fire season. The salt and the lava have been transitioned from the type 1 teams that were in place to type 3 incident management organizations. And we continue to reduce down the complexity of oversight on those incidents, just like we do every season of every. We're trending in the right direction. We're getting our folks rested. It was a pretty good push right there from June 24th until, just over the last couple of days. And we are preparing for the long haul this season, the marathon, not a sprint. And so getting our folks rested and back refreshed, ready to take on the next incident that may pop up. And so the only thing that I didn't mention, I think in the beginning, is our aviation resources, are at almost full capacity. We've got air tankers down here at the Redding Air Tanker Base. They've been flying countless hours of flight time and missions. Our air attack platforms are staffed and ready to respond. And so, with all the challenges that we faced the beginning of this season, with retention, pay, workplace environment, we are continuing to take on the challenges of initial attack, and we're being successful. And so that is basically an overview of the spring of 2021 and into July 16th of 2021. And if there are any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
Carol Fall, you have a question?
Hi, Todd. This is Carol Fall. I'm on the collaborative, but I'm also with the Trinity Center Volunteer Fire Department. And I was wondering if you had an update on the status of the cooperative agreements with the fire departments that expired July 7th in Trinity County.
Let me confirm that we're talking about the same. Are you talking about the CFMA agreements from the 12-hour to the 3-hour topic? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, and I was just wondering if they've sent out the agreements from CNA.
Yes, and so to the best of my knowledge, and I just had a discussion about this yesterday down here at the supervisor's office, all of the agreements have been signed all the way through our federal process, and they have been disseminated to the local fire management officer, which in your case, and I'm sure you know him, is Glenn Tingley, to reach out to the volunteer or paid departments, and I know in your case, the volunteer departments, to present for a signature to you, and whether or not you sign it, it is strictly up to you and your department. If there's any more discussion you need to have about that, feel free to call me direct and we can discuss it. So like I said, I got into this position 6 weeks ago. It's been busy. And so I stepped into the local agreement process a little late. So I might not have all the intel, but it's supposed to have been in your local fire management officers, Glenn Tingley's hands to get to you all for signature or not signature.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we've been responding. We've had some little fires up here, and we're glad to respond anytime. I'm just waiting for the paperwork. So thanks for the update.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I'll follow up on my end as well. So thanks for bringing that up.
Great. Any other questions for Todd?
I have a question.
Yes, Larry.
I have one. I was wondering if you can verify that the Shasta Trinity does not manage any wildfires in order to achieve resource objectives. That's been a controversial topic.
Sure, yeah, and I'm aware of that, Larry. It seems to be every year. I can tell you that in the past, 2 years ago and beyond that time, it has been on the table internal as a discussion point. But I can tell you last year and this year, it is not on the table for us to manage fire for resource benefit. It is 100% suppression, aggressive initial attack.
Great. That's good to hear. And
Yeah,
I think more people need to hear that.
Yeah, yep. I do not disagree with you, sir. We are trying to get our message out. I know we've done a lot of that messaging in the recent past, and we'll continue to do that. We are aggressive initial attack, 100% suppression at this point in time.
Very good. Any other questions?
Yeah, Todd, this is Roger Yeagle. I'm wondering what types of fuels projects might be most useful to you in helping you with your suppression efforts.
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and there's different landscapes as we all know across the forest. There's landscapes that need to be treated that are in the wildland urban interface location, which is going to be a different application for treatment than might be somewhere that's not near values at risk. And so that's a multi-answer question, sir. And I'd probably reserve my thoughts to when I had a specific location. I could probably give you a much better answer. And we do have our fuels officer that is part of my staff here at the supervisor's office, who works very closely with Laura Graham, the fuel specialist on the district, and fuel specialist on our other districts on the forest. And they're constantly evaluating what the right application is for the right landscape. And so once again, I don't know if I can answer that question effectively over the whole forest. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you. I know that that is a difficult question to answer, but if we are to achieve fire resilience, we have to figure out how to deal with those factors that make your job so difficult.
Yeah, I agree 100%, sir. And I could tell you what my preference for treatment is, but that's not always the right application. And I can assure you that we are very focused on fuels treatments and getting the acres treated.
Okay. Any other questions for Todd? Well, thank you very much, Todd. I appreciate your presence and the report out. That was great. Thank you very much.
You're very well.
Any other agency folks or Six Rivers reports out for this particular fire season, or from BLM or anybody else?
Well, I'm the one-person show here today, so tough to follow Todd there with all his good information. You might have heard me mention earlier my report that the Six Rivers does have a new forest fire chief. Our chief one is Josh Eichhammer, and so he's just going to be starting the job here, I think just this pay period, actually, officially. And so I think what you'll see is, with his strong background in fuels planning and as well as in operations and firefighting, that we will have a revitalized program, and he has some organizational changes that he's looking to do at those higher levels to kind of help hone in, excuse me, on our skills and moderate the fact that we are down about 30% staffing across all our modules. So it has been challenging to keep our engines and our districts staffed, and we are using contract engines under preparedness code to bring them in to augment when we have to send resources on off-forest assignments. And some of you may know that just as of yesterday, the nation moved into PL5, preparedness level 5, which is the highest alert level that we have. And so that's not just firefighters, but it's all the support staff that operations need in order to respond, including logistics and finance. And so I make my staff available as much as possible. We still do have our restoration EA that we're working on, and we're really close to, getting that draft out. But I have staff in my resource staff that has multiple jobs to help support that, both locally and nationally. The chief's letter intent came out, the chief of the Forest Service, and the issues there that she's very concerned about are fatigue and safety. And one way to mitigate fatigue with our firefighters is having a required 3 days off when they come back from a 2-week assignment. So that will add some challenges to staffing, but we're in it for the long haul, and it's important to mitigate those fatigue factors for our folks that are out there working really hard. So that's pretty much it on our side. We're doing the best we can with the hand that was dealt us, and we are good partners with our neighbors, the Shasta Trinity, as well as the Mendocino and the Klamath. We all work together to, try to keep everybody safe. So thanks.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. And in the chat, Jennifer Mata said no fire-specific report for BLM as it pertains to Trinity County at this point. So unless there's anything else that anybody wants to add, with regard to fire season, we can move on. Next up on the agenda was any kind of updates for the alert wildfire camera installations. Anybody in the Forest Service that wants to take on that particular question?
So, hey, good morning, Terry. It's Carrie Otto. And so this is one, it's a non-update update. And so I talked to our lead for this yesterday, and we are still waiting for UNR to submit their application. And so we have reached out to Graham Kent multiple times to kind of nudge him along. And even in our last update with Jill Cox, she too has reached out to him to nudge him. But until that application process moves, we're kind of in a holding pattern. So that's the non-update update, so to speak.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Anybody else have anything to report out on that?
Kelly, could I backtrack about fires?
Sure, Kenneth.
I think it was the night of July 5th. We had an 1.5 acre fire up the valley for me, about 2 miles up in Mule Gulch. And evidently, I'm still trying to get a report from CAL FIRE on it, but evidently, I understand it might have been a generator that was backed up too close to something flammable. And I've heard that the person responsible was told to leave the county and not come back. And it was a real mess. There was a camp up there, and it was a very trashed out camp. So we're all real concerned up here because this watershed, I don't think it's had a major fire in over 100 years.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. Anything else on the alert wildfire camera installations? Question, Diana, Sheen?
We're all real concerned here too. So there's been a lot of raking, a lot of, in the time that he could, a lot of burning the stuff before the window closed on that. So yes, there's a lot of concern. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda would be illegal cannabis grows on federal lands. I had a brief discussion earlier this week with Susan Bauer, and I made some outreach because as of the last meeting, our understanding as put forth by Barry Stewart was that we were hoping to hear, we oftentimes get LEO, law enforcement officers like Tim Saxon or folks from the forest providing information about activities with regard to illegal grows. But Barry was particularly interested in hearing more from the sort of a fish and wildlife perspective. So I did reach out to some folks at California Fish and Wildlife, and have not heard anything back from them. I have a hard time connecting with the appropriate people, apparently. Susan, do you have anything that you wanted to report out with regard to that?
I don't have any answers yet about what's going on, but Greta, Dr. Greta Weinster of the Integral Ecology Research Center will probably give us a report next time. And they've been studying and cleaning, they've been cleaning up predominantly along with the federal agencies under their auspices, actually, and researching how the animals are being affected. She spoke with us about, I think, over a year ago on something related. But I don't have anybody from Fish and Wildlife yet, although I'm still working on it. I have a new lead. At this point, though, I would like to say that our cannabis group has not met in a long time. We have had some reports during that time. And I'm wondering if those of you who are on the cannabis committee would like to meet, conference call, Zoom, or even in person, to get a clearer idea of direction and what sorts of information we'd like to be gathering and what's happening on the state level. Some very important things are, and be able to present next time at our next meeting. If we could have a slot then, that would be great. And if there's anybody who's not on the cannabis committee who would like to be, please tell Kelly and or me directly, and we would be happy to have you on it. So I think perhaps Larry Glass, he's been very involved with CROP, which is, Larry, you're still on?
Yes.
Would you like to give any reports of some of the activities you've been involved in regarding
Well,
the
I'm
cannabis?
on the crop advisory board, and Greta and some LEOs and representative of Trinity County and others are on that same advisory board. And we've been pushing for legislation to fund for enforcement on the national forest lands. We had some progress for a while, but lately doesn't seem like there's been much forward movement on that, but we're going to keep trying. That's, we believe, the key to a lot of this is having enough LEOs out in the field to even discover where these are, let alone, try and enforce on them or clean them up. So that's all I would want to talk about right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. I think that's all I have to say at this point, too. Any questions that people would like us, that the collaborative folks would like us to focus on, especially other than those? No, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Yeah, if there were any comments with regard to that, the trouble that I run into with regard to this particular committee is that it's, they're with the LEO end of things, the general management of illegal grows at the state and federal level is sort of a bit of a black box, and so it's hard to really get solid information or actually contacts that are willing to share that kind of information, which is why it's been great that Tim on occasion has been able to report out to us as a more local contact. I will continue to try to work to reach out to California Fish and Wildlife to talk about that piece of it, because I think Barry's main concern as a member of that committee was largely, when we started hearing out from Greta about sort of the spread of herbicides, not only herbicides, but like especially like pesticides like carbofuran and stuff like that, and how that gets into the the food chain essentially, was something that he was particularly concerned about. And so getting any kind of information about that seems to be somewhat problematic at this point, but I'll continue to reach out to California Fish and Wildlife to see if there's somebody on that agency that basically can speak to that topic. And I would just ask Christine at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife side of the spectrum, is this a topic that you're aware of at all?
It is. We have been working closely with both Dr. Gabriel as well as Greta for quite a while on providing basically funding through our Section 6, the Section 6 program that the Fish and Wildlife Service coordinates with the state Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we are interested in it. We are aware of it. I don't know if you've tried contacting Pete Figura from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
What's the last name? Pete Figura?
Figura, I can send you his contact info.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm just making a quick note about that. But thank you, Christine. Appreciate that. So I'll continue to follow those threads and we'll see where we can go. And maybe what I'll do, Susan, is put out a call to the people that have been currently, that are currently on the cannabis committee, and we'll just see if there's some new information and if there's a need to meet and sort of restructure our committee. We can kind of move on from there.
Thank you, Kelly, and you have been helpful all along.
Great. Thank you very much.
Diana?
Yes, Susan. Okay, Kelly. Anyway, I was wondering, Susan, if you could, since it's been so long, can you confirm the members' names in that committee? Because I believe we used to be on that, and it's been
You
a
are.
long
That's
time.
correct. You are on. Mhm. And some have moved and some have dropped out. And that's part of why I was asking anybody who doesn't feel that they're already on it or doesn't know that they are but want to be.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Can you call us or email or something when there's a meeting?
I think.
Oh, definitely we will.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Kelly.
As I recall, yes, I believe that you're on that. So we'll certainly make sure, I'll verify that and make sure that
I'm sure.
You.
Thank you.
Great. There is a chat clarification that has to do with the alert wildfire camera installations. Carol Fall was asking Carrie Otto the name of the person that she's trying to contact on the application, and not sure the process. Does someone else need to submit the application?
So the person who has the lead for this is from from UNR, the University of Nevada, Reno, and it's Dr. Graham Kent. As far as can somebody else submit the application, I would need to check with our special uses folks and make sure that I'm not getting crosswise there. So I can certainly circle back at the next meeting and give an update on that.
So Carrie, I think the thing is the collaborative isn't kind of aware of your conversations with Jill Cox. So you're kind of assuming that we're in that loop, and so we're not really aware of exactly how the application, what are the steps, what's the process, where's the breakdown, so we don't know that. So any kind of update you can give us beyond the non-update, and we're waiting for somebody to do something, that would really help.
Oh, okay. So I can provide that update next time. I don't have that level of detail and specificity. other than for things to get started, it does require an application for a permit. And that application has not materialized yet.
So do you know if the Forest Service went ahead and submitted to him the list of sites that you thought were good sites? I mean, because that was one of the things that the Forest Service was going to do.
So we have provided him that information several times, yes.
Okay, and is it possible to maybe send that to the collaborative so that we can somehow help with this process?
So Carol, I am happy to provide an update at the next meeting.
Well, that's 2 months from now. We're trying to get this done for this fire season, get something moving. I mean, that's September.
So I absolutely understand your concerns. The person that I need to speak with on our staff who can walk me through the exact steps of the process is not available today or next week. So as soon as she returns, I will sit down with her and I can circle back with y'all.
Okay, that would be really great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Carol, you have put your hand up. Was that what you needed to get out? Did you have another issue or anything, Carol? Not hearing you. Okay.
No, Kelly, that was it. Thank you. I just wanted to, we've been trying to get this alert wildfire thing for a few years now. So we're just trying to see where we're at and how we can move it forward. That's all I had.
You bet. Gotcha. Thanks, Carol. Diana? Your hand
Yes,
up?
this is a yes or no. So I'm under the impression, or I think I recall that Velocity Travis is not a part of this anymore. Because he had been there with Pat and several other people talking about field fire cameras.
We were trying to facilitate, like what was doable, where there were power, where there was power, where there was internet, because you need to have both of those things. So he had provided a list, and he had worked with Pat, myself, and a few other people, Carol, on getting, a list of sort of priority sites as far as we knew, what those locations probably should be, or or the low-lying fruit as far as where they could be. So and I think that was a lot of what we had provided to the forest. And so part of the hang up was the process of actually getting through whatever process there was on the forest for getting new equipment put out on those sites. And it sounds like that's kind of where we're at with carrying this conversation.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no other specific comments about either the alert wildfire cameras or the illegal grows. I will move into agency updates. Jennifer Mata, BLM. Anything relevant to this group?
Good, almost afternoon. I'm still here. I only have a couple things to add that really are relevant to the group. So we're continuing. My staff has mostly been focused on our resource management plan revision. So we've been kind of plugging away at working on draft alternatives for the last few months now at this point. We did have a short kind of introductory cooperating agency meeting which was well attended a couple weeks ago, just to get people, the agencies and partners that are on that cooperating agency list, just to get them together so they understand where we're at in the process. So I'm still looking at putting out our notice of intent for the RMP in the latter part of 21 or first part of 22, which will really kick off the formal kind of environmental impact process for the plan. So it's still kind of going on in the background, but should be ready for some more public involvement and input in the next few months. And then really, as far as our fuels work goes, everything that we have going in Trinity County right now is on a pause, mostly because A, fire season, and B, we're in some limited operating periods for migratory birds. So everything should pick back up, weather permitting, in September. So that's it. We've been busy just here and there with a few fires in both Siskiyou, Shasta, and Butte County at this point, but nothing thankfully too large, at least on the BLM portions. So I think that is it, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Okay, not hearing any questions for Jennifer. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that report out. Very much appreciated. Are there any other U.S. Forest Service updates that we have that we haven't already discussed?
So Terry, just a couple quick things. So many of you know that Randy Moore has been selected to be the new chief of the Forest Service. So he will be departing at the end of this month. His successor has not yet been named nor made official, but once we have that information, we will certainly share that. The other thing going on, and don't have specific timeframes yet, but just want to let you know that it's coming. So we are going through Northwest Forest Plan revision, which is a pretty significant effort across the northern forests, Northern California, Southern Oregon forests. And there is a portion of that plan that once we get to a certain point, hopefully early in fiscal year 22, that we will be sending that out for comment. And that's really looking forward to getting input from the collaborative on that product. So those are the two things that we haven't covered already.
Great, thank you, Carrie. Anything from Chris or anybody else on the Shasta T side?
I'd like to share a few brief things. I was looking at the notes from last meeting, and I noticed that they mentioned that we briefly discussed the cleanup day in Post Mountain, and I'm guessing most of you have seen the reports and or been there, but I wanted to share with you that we had the cleanup day on May 25th. It was very successful. We had over 100 folks attend. About 60 or more, slightly over half were Forest Service, but we also had many members of the public, local members of the public. The local supervisor for that area, District 5, was present, as were some county folks. So that was very successful, and I just wanted to update the group on that. I also thought I'd just briefly like to mention something, and that is, many of you may know, but not all of you probably do. But there is a network of, we were talking about a network of cameras, but there is a network of air quality sensors that is just starting to take hold in Trinity County, a very rural county. But if you're interested, I'd recommend everybody take a look at www.purpleair, that's one word, .com, and there is a map of the air quality sensors. They're user created. Basically, anybody who buys this this device can place these air quality sensors at their residence or their place of business, et cetera. And that reports the particulate levels for that area. And I think it's actually very useful for folks who live out here and folks who are concerned about air quality, both fire and prescribed fire. We now have a handful in Trinity County. We recently installed one at the Hay Fork and Harrison Gulch. That's technically Shasta County, but it's right on the border. And these are live sensors. There's one in Weaverville at the school. There's a couple at Trinity Lake, and it appears that somebody in High and Palm just put one up. That must have been a member of the public, which is great. But we were provided some of these sensors by the Air Board, and if any of you are interested, I'd be happy to tell you more. The system works when a lot of people put the sensors up, and then you can look and kind of see an average. So 2 years ago, there were none of these sensors in Trinity County. Now there's looks like half a dozen, which is pretty good for as rural a county as we are. And so I'd encourage you to look at www.purpleair.com and take a look. And if you're interested in putting up some sensors, we can talk. Robin Chin spearheaded this on our forest. I think she may have disconnected, but she and Keith Rohrs have been putting them up on the 6th South Fork, and like I said, there's a few in North County as well. Some other things I thought you folks would be interested in. End of report.
That's great, Chris. Thank you.
Oh, well, Tara, did you want to go and finish out the Shasta Trinity and I can wait, or so you turn your camera on?
Either way, you can go or I'll go.
Okay. So just a few things that we hadn't covered earlier. I wanted to let everybody know that implementation on the Three Forks Salvage CE project started a few weeks ago. So we've implemented our first decision under the August complex. So exciting news there. Additionally, our forest, the Six Rivers and the Shasta Trinity, received an extra $400,000 to move forward with the planning for the South Fork Mountain Joint Forests Fuel Break. And we've already obligated those monies into 3 different agreements for heritage surveys with HSU, planning and implementation with the Hay Fork Watershed Center, and also with NCRC, Northern California Resource Center. So that was a success there. And then one other thing that actually maybe there's folks here can help me with is that there's interest in the Ruth and surrounding communities to form a fire safe council. And so we have some ideas, and I won't go into depth here, but if anybody could reach out to me and maybe we can talk about how I can help facilitate with the individuals in the community that are interested in having a local fire safe council, I would really appreciate that help. So that's it. Thanks.
Carol, since you mentioned that, Kristen, I'm sure that Carol, you just raised your hand. Would you like to talk about the meeting that we had a few weeks ago?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. So, Kristen, I'm the chair of the Trinity County Fire Safe Council, which is countywide. So we had a field trip down to Southern Trinity to meet with people there that were interested in forming a fire safe council. We kind of gave them a lot of information about how we can help them. I thought it was a pretty good field trip, good meeting. And so I think that process is already initiated.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Carol. I'm interested in working together, potentially putting in a request to the Trinity County RAC for some funding to help them develop that fire safe council. So kind of looking at doing that where we can help. I know they need to do it themselves, but obviously we have an interest in helping that along. So I'll talk to you offline if that would work for you.
Yeah, I'll send you my email, but if you look at what the RAC funds, it's improvements to infrastructure. So it's roads, trails, watersheds, forestry projects. It really isn't the best funding source for a fire safe council, but there are other sources. So yeah, we'll chat offline.
Okay, so you know, LeJean Heyman is my detailed deputy ranger. I'm trying to keep him from going back, Carrie, but I will give him back eventually. And anyway, he's the partnership coordinator with the Trinity County, and we were talking about the educational opportunity fund or whatever. I'm getting the wrong terminology there, but for educational, we thought it might fit under that. So, but thank you, appreciate that.
Just as a sort of a side, you know, we're related to Fire Safe Council and coordination, and just sort of, I guess, go a little bit further to what Carol was reporting out. At that meeting, we met with Madison, and I don't remember what her last name was, but she was on one of our, I guess, calls not too long ago, and was talking about the impacts of the August complex on that community. So it was a very productive meeting to basically go down and this Carol and myself and Dylan Sheedy from the Watershed Center and Amelia Flights doing coordination for the you know, the Trinity County Fire Safe Council, and my Forest Health program manager Chris Cole. So it was a very productive meeting, and it was very good to see and talk to, see the landscape, see the impact, talk about, you know, some of the actual specific impacts to the community. And so what I guess what I would follow up with is we're also in just about finished with our discussions with the County of Trinity about you know, a coordinator position that would assist in the facilitation of specifically the Trinity County Fire Safe Council, but also sort of countywide. It's a countywide sort of position with funding from the California Fire Safe Council. It's CAL FIRE funding through the California Fire Safe Council that would help to actually fund, you know, Fire Safe Council coordination. So we will be, you know, able to sort of work with those folks down there and actually provide them some assistance in that way. So that's coming up very soon. That proposal is actually opens up August 2nd and closes at the end of August. But we're pretty well positioned because our fire safe councils are pretty well developed and pretty strong. So we don't think there'll be any problem requiring that funding to assist in you know, in these sorts of efforts.
Well, great. I'm super glad I brought that up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known how much progress had been made. So I'll reach out to you too, Kelly, and this will be a good learning experience for me as well. So thanks, everybody. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. Arnold Whitridge, I see your hand up. Virtual hand.
Yeah, Kristen, could I ask, when you talk about obligating funds from the $400,000 available for the two forest South Fork Mountain fuel break, is it one batch of money, or are you obligating money from the Six Rivers portion and not talking about the Shasta Trinity portion, or how does it work?
Oh, no. We were hand in hand. So Lois, who I believe is on the call here, she worked on it as well. And so the two forests together collaboratively decided the best way to utilize those funds and obligate them. So this will be a shared project across both the forests and shared resources there. So just because the agreements, each agreement has its own program manager, and so we sort of divvied it up that way. I'm the program manager for the Hay Fork agreement. And so we did the work. Lejean did all the work for both of us. And then Lois is the program manager for the NCRC agreement that we put the money in. And then the Six Rivers is also, I forget exactly who the program manager is for the HSU agreement. It's our agreement as well. So no, it's completely shared across the board.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Great. Tara, any other additional updates from Shasta T side?
Sure, just real quick, wanted to make sure we touched on it briefly, the preparedness level of 5. As you may or may not know, that means that within the agency, our #1 priority across the nation is fire suppression. So some of our militia folks that have normal jobs like biologists and botanists, if there's a need for them to go to a fire, they will be going to that fire. So want to make sure we're all on the same page with that, so that we share that information. Also want to let you know that because of the conditions that Todd Mack touched on, we have implemented additional fire restrictions including in the wilderness. And to that end, I'm happy to say that the TRMU was successful in placing an order for some additional fire prevention help, including some wilderness patrol to help spread that word and do some educating out there. So I'm real happy with that. And also recreation continues to get a lot done with Sally managing about 13 different agreements. So we're real busy in dealing with agreements and recreation as well.
That's great. Any questions for Tara? Okay, then there's nobody else that wants to speak up on the Forest Service side. I think we can probably move on. Next on the list was NRCS updates. I got a message from Tiffany Perez, who was acting DC while Aaron Taylor has been out of the office. And she wasn't able to make today's meeting, but wanted to just essentially report out that by and large, most of what they've been dealing with in the Weaverville field office for Trinity County has been related specifically to sort of recovery efforts in the August complex. They have a kind of a specific program that they're using for funding that assistance, and they recently closed that batching period, and they will know when that will be opening up again, probably closer to the end of the federal fiscal year. October 1 is the date that she put on it. As far as having an idea of when the next round of that assistance will become available. But that was sort of the bulk of the message that I received from Tiffany Perez from the NRCS this morning. We don't have anybody from the Watershed Research and Training Center on, but as far as RCD updates, we talked a little bit about the Joint Chiefs submission earlier. I will also mention that I think I brought it up the last meeting, but we did go through the process with the McConnell Foundation of submitting a Cal OES proposal that is it's Cal OES, but it's FEMA federal funding. And it's a fairly significant ask, about $10 million doing fuels reduction. And the areas that we actually met with Keith Greenwood from SPI and spoke with him about partnering on some, what we considered fairly high priority areas where this funding might, most applicably be applied to the landscapes. And one of the areas that we identified was from Covington Hill to Trinity Center, that stretch along within the national recreation area, just Trinity National Forest, but also, tied in with a lot of SPI land as being, fairly high priority for as many people are coming into the area for recreation, that would be a good place to put some funding. We also identified areas on the Browns, basically in the areas between Little Browns Creek and Weaverville, the east side of the basin, where they've done some treatment, but there's some more to be done, and Keith was both amenable and pretty excited about those areas as being good treatment areas. There was a couple other smaller areas that were identified in that particular application, but the ability to use that funding is sort of limited to private lands. It's a lot of money to potentially be bringing into the county, especially considering that private lands are sort of tied to it, as well as proximity to proximity to communities and structures and things of that nature. So it was just an opportunity that we couldn't really pass up. So we application in. This is a longer term potential set of projects. We probably wouldn't have all the environmental compliance completed, assuming that the application gets accepted. There's environmental compliance that needs to be completed before the actual award of the so we're talking about work that wouldn't really be starting probably for another 2 to 3 years. But again, an opportunity that we really couldn't pass up. So on top of that, we have some fairly significant proposals in for both the CAL FIRE Forest Health CCI grant opportunities, as well as the fire prevention CCI grant opportunities, which we are pretty excited about. We have been working with both the Shasta Trinity National Forest and the Six Rivers National Forest on doing some fairly significant bear funded roads and infrastructure related upgrades. Mostly work on roads. I think we just are now transitioning over to the Six Rivers National Forest side. We got through most of the funding that we had for the Shasta Trinity National Forest, but it's all on forest roads, and the focus was on some of the high severity areas of the August complex that were burned. And so that work is gonna basically have our roads program tied up for the rest of this field season by and large. So just wanted to report out that we are actively working down in the August complex footprint and working with both of the forests on those on that work. And as far as that, I think that's probably enough for RCD at this point. Any questions for any of the agencies on like basic updates?
Yeah, I just, I might have been distracted. So is there thinning happening, or is it after the fact?
You mean the projects I just was referring to?
Yes.
For the August complex?
For Weaverville, for around Weaverville, around the communities. You mentioned Trinity Center.
So those were for proposals that we had put out. The work, we have basically work going on both in Weaverville, Lewiston, and now we're doing some work with PG&E funding down in Mad River and Van Duzen areas. So we have 3 crews going right now.
That's great.
And I know that the Watershed Center's got 2 crews going, as well as their mastication. And so we've been working with pretty collaboratively with the Watershed Center, working, diligently, getting, implementation done as far as fuels reduction is concerned on both sides of the hill. So yeah, that work is ongoing, and we'll be continuing until the snow flies, so that, as they say. So yes.
Wonderful.
Active implementation, lots of active implementation happening right now, as well as work being done on BLM property, BLM lands down in, to some extent, down in Kenneth's neck of the woods, Indian Creek, as well as like I said, Lewiston, and the kind of like that western edge of the Car Fire, Deadwood area, Lewiston. So we've kind of been everywhere, ramping
Oregon
up.
Summit.
What's that?
Oregon Summit.
We've been doing some work on Oregon Street, down all the way down into town, actually, as well as the areas around, in town, and then up the mountain there.
Because that fire a couple of nights ago was kind of scary to try to determine where it was without going over and driving it.
Sure.
And so.
Yeah, the one in Forest Avenue.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. So we're actively working both in town and around town, and kind of we've got a lot of work that we need to finish up for this particular fire season, as well as a couple of new modifications for doing work with the Shasta, with the Six Rivers on 2 agreements that we have existing with them over in the some of which is in the actual August complex burn areas. So yeah, lots of work.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No problem. If there aren't any other specific questions, any other updates from anybody within the group? Okay, hearing none. If there's if there's any public input at this point, I think we're getting pretty close to wrapping up. So I will state that from the facilitation team end of things, before we get into the agenda building, you see me sitting in our conference room. I'm sorry I didn't more widely, I guess, advertise this out, but there was a couple of specific people that we talked about, getting together, like more of a hybrid kind of situation. I had done some research, and for apparently the hybrid sort of meeting situation for a venue like the Weaverville VFD hall is not real good right now, because the people on the Zoom side of things, I guess the equipment that they have in that particular venue is not super duper qualitative. The room's very big. There's not a lot of microphones. So we talked about the potential of having a hybridized meeting with people being able to meet, but we sort of decided that wasn't maybe necessarily the best way to go yet. So I think it's something that that the collaborative group should probably be thinking about, is when we might be able to get to, how we might be able to do at least this beginning steps in hybridizing the meetings, because as of right now, my understanding is that, and maybe some of our partners can confirm this, but there hasn't been any discussions, or I haven't heard anything from BLM, Forest Service, state agencies about whether or not they're able to start attending meetings in person yet. So without their input, without their presence, it makes it hard for us to really go fully into the way that it was in the before times. So Is anybody on the agency end of things able to talk to that?
So Terry, understand that we wanted to get back to in-person meetings. We all do. The guidance continues to evolve. As things stand right now, we're kind of looking at, and the guidance that we have gotten from our higher headquarters is perhaps after the 1st of October is when we'll start reintegrating back into the office and back into in-person type meeting engagements. And so I think the first collaborative meeting after the 1st of October, we would really like to target as an opportunity to join y'all in person, if that's okay.
That's great. I mean, that's progress. Thank you, Carrie. Anything on the BLM side, Jennifer?
Yeah, Kelly, we don't have, I don't think, any official direction that prohibits us from attending meetings in person. Kind of the direction we've been giving is, if it makes sense and you can do it virtually, do it virtually. If it needs to be done in person, do it in person, but, take the precautions. And then we're leaving it up to, staff really to decide if they're comfortable at this point attending an in-person meeting. So if you guys, same thing with field trips, if we need to schedule one, we'll figure out how to get it done safely. And if we want to have an in-person meeting, since normally it's just me anyway, and I know my level of comfort, I'm fine with doing that. So yeah, but yeah, we're in the same boat. We're still maximizing telework. We do have some employees in the office, and our front lobby is open. So we are taking, walk-in traffic at the office, but still waiting more official direction from the Bureau on a kind of full return to the office plan, which we hope is coming in the next few weeks.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
So, I guess at this point, what I would say is, we'll be shooting for our September meetings. It's likely that, the best that we could do that would be like efficient for hybridization of that meeting would probably be, whether we could fit eight people around this table here. Otherwise, it'll, continue to be Zoom. As far as agenda building, I have obviously on the list the barred owl discussion. What other topics would people like us to take up?
This is Susan, the cannabis.
Sorry, Larry, go ahead.
Fire cams discussion. We're going to get back to us. I'd like that high up on the agenda. Feel like that one king. He's getting kicked down the road.
Oh shoot, Larry, you're breaking up a little bit. I didn't catch that.
Fire cams discussion.
Fire cams. Okay. Any specific aspect of that you'd like to focus on?
Well, it just keeps getting kicked down the road. We've been talking about it for 2 years. They said they were going to get back to us with more information. I want to put it high up on the agenda.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Sorry, Susan?
For the Cannabis Committee, report from Dr. Greta on the cleanup and enforcement, as well as I have some leads for Fish and Wildlife I'll pursue, and hopefully somebody will give us a report there.
Great.
I'll let you know.
Okay, and I'll be in touch with you, Susan, about my efforts there too.
Excellent.
Okay, Terry? You're on mute.
Sorry.
Yeah, so on my way out to Rush Creek Road, when I go up to the Pettyjohn Mountain there, they're doing a great job thinning out the trees and limbing all the trees up along the road, and that looks a lot better. And the CAL FIRES come in and crews, the con crews, and burn them, I guess, this winter. They got them covered with plastic now. So it's looking really good that way and coming up that road. But that's, you know, we just need to do the ridge top between us and Weaverville and us and Lewiston. So the ridge tops and the roads, 300 feet, going out 100 is good. And then going out the next 100 and, you know, just keep at it because it's looking good. Thank you.
Okay. Carol, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I had a note in chat to add an update on the alert wildfire cameras.
Okay. So we'll keep that on the agenda.
Sorry if you can't understand me, Kelly, but that's what I was trying to say.
Oh.
Fire cans.
Fire cameras. Okay, I was hearing fire camps. Sorry. Okay, very good. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, not hearing anything. I guess we're adjourned. And thanks everybody for your time and for your continued.
Hey, Kelly, there's another note in the chat about Diane Richards put Oakland restoration. I'm not sure what she wants, but it's in the chat.
Okay, yeah, Diane, any specific?
Yeah, well, we had some of a presentation, but I'd like to try and get a project going so that we can incorporate it into some of this, you know, restructuring of our forest, restoration, et cetera. It really should be in every single project that we do. Because we were in Oakland before, and we should restore it. We need to have some areas open, and we need to incorporate it into every single project that's possible.
I know that when we were doing the Joint Chiefs proposal, that concept is part of, you know, what we're probably going to be, you know, some of the restoration for August Complex is probably going to be that for sure.
So could we discuss that, how we can incorporate that? I don't want it to be left to the side.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Oak woodland restoration.
Which is so important for wildlife too, the mast.
And it's naturally, you know, fire resilient. So, absolutely.
And returns if burned often.
You bet. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for noticing that, Carol, and thanks for that suggestion, Diane. Anything else? Double checking. I think we're at that place. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we will be in touch soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Be safe out there.